every now and then we will get truly lucky when it comes to quadratics. This doesn't happen very often. I'm not going to give you these very often because they're just not very interesting, but it is worth mentioning that if you have a quadratic in the form x squared equals d, then that tells you x is equal to plus or minus the square root of d. I almost hesitate to give you an example of this, but just to be sure, if we want to solve the equation 4x squared plus 64 equals 0, there's really nothing to it. What we're going to do is we're going to take that 4x squared, subtract over the 64, and if we want to, we can take the square root now, or we can divide over the 4. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to divide over the 4. X squared equals negative 16, and then you just take the square root. You get x is going to be equal to plus or minus 4i. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this is also very much like that example that I briefly mentioned when I was introducing the history behind the roots and the imaginary numbers. It's ideal, even more so than factoring. But we're not always in this form. We're actually very rarely in this form. However, a lot of times we are close to this form. When we're close to something like this, we can use a different trick that I know very few students like because it has some very obvious weaknesses, but we are still going to discuss completing the square.